do not disbelieve in him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his servant and messenger. Allah sent him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأوثق الأمور كلمة التقوى وخير الملال ملة إبراهيم وخير السنن سنة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأشرف الحديث ذكر الله وأحسن القصص هذا القرآن وخير الأمور أوزموها وشير الأمور محدثاتها وأحسن الهدي هدي الأنبياء وأشرف الموت قتل الشهداء وأما الأمة دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفع وخير الهادي ما أتباع وشير الأمة Amal Kalb. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah. The most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the community is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. But the best way of life is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are the ones that yield benefits. Best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah yahmaru bil adli wal ihsani wa itai dil qurba wa yanha anil fashai wal munkari wal bagi yaitakum la'alakum tadakkarun. Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin. He forbids all shameful deed and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan willeth to guide, He opens their breasts to Islam. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُونَ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold fast altogether by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves. Kuntum khayra umatin ukrijat lil nasi tamaruna bil marufi wa tanhauna anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best peoples raised for mankind because you enjoin the right, you forbid the wrong, and you believe in Allah. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin nabi al-ummi. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, yaqulu Allahu ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allaha wa malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Do you wonder, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, do you wonder that there hath come to you a message from your Lord through a man of your own people to warn you so that you may fear Allah and happily receive mercy? Another ayat, very similar. Do you wonder that there had come to you a message from your Lord through a man of your own people to warn you? Call in remembrance that he made you inheritors after the people of Noah and gave you a stature tall amongst the nations. Call in the remembrance the benefits you have received from Allah, that so you may prosper. These two ayats are repeated often in the Quran. And whenever a messenger or some warner was sent to the people, they were generally surprised that, oh, this guy, you're just like us. You're from our tribe. And even in one of the messengers said, man, we had high hopes for you. It might have been Shuaib. Man, you was the epitome of some of our hopes and aspirations. So today I ask you to bear with me a little bit, because there's a few incidents that are happening, and we want to try to bring a little clarity to them from the position that we are observing. And we read this ayat that Allah gave you a stature tall amongst the people. That means, you know, in the recent past, black people had a great stature. You know, from Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the whole world realized that we was headed somewhere. You take, we were active during the time of the great rebellions around the world, and also the decolonization period. That was a common mentality. In Africa, it was uhuru, it was freedom and liberation from colonialism. In Asia, in Indonesia, and Malaysia, and in India, all of those countries were coming out from under the colonialism of European domination, which technically was an aberration in history. In the past, the Muslims for 1,300 years had ran their own business. Somewhere in the world, there was a Muslim empire, right? Up until about 200 years ago, or something like that. In fact, up until 100 years ago, we had the Khilafah, the Uthmaniyya, the Ottoman Empire. That was just 100 years ago, 1924. Up until then, it was still in power. It lost its technical power in 1918 after joining with Germany and losing World War I. But anyway, so Allah said that He wanted to make you a people tall in stature. In those days, we were among those people, and anything you looked at, whether it's in sports, we was breaking the baseball thing. They said black people can't play baseball, and all of a sudden, everybody, whether it was Willie Mays or all, they was breaking all the records, right? So people were beginning to recognize that we were technically human beings. In the political arena and the arena of struggle, by the time Malcolm X and Martin Luther King came around, they were dynamic leaders of the global, not just here, of the global restoration of human dignity to the human being, especially talking about black people, where at that period of time, all the people struggling for liberation and freedom was people of color. All right. So right now, you know, this Quran, it's perpetual. So when you read this ayat about, oh, y'all think it's a big deal that somebody from amongst your own people coming to you to give you a warning, right? Okay, ain't no more prophets coming. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is kafata and lil nas. He is the messenger to humanity. He's also Khatam and Nabiyeen, the seal or the lock of the prophets. No prophet is coming after him. But there are people who would be like mujaddids, revivers, renewers, restorers to Islam, to the Pristine Islam. As Islam became semi-diverted and corrupted, there would be people from time to time that would come and polish it up again throughout the history of humanity in the future. Constantly coming, constantly reviving, renewing, and restoring Islam. So these ayats would be very particular at that time. Hey man, y'all shocked that a man from amongst you, look like you, talk like you. That's the period we're in right this minute. So I want you to bear with me for a minute as we begin to relate some of the things that you can see the news, and that's why we changed our subject. If you could show that picture, you could see in the news today, they just called the National Guard into Minnesota. They armed the National Guard. They say they're fully armed and they're there to protect civil society. But the leaders and the governors and what have you say that the people have reason to be upset.
The police have to understand that,
for what we know, the police and those police officers that murdered the brother on television, where everybody saw it. It was a long period. He wasn't there for like a minute or two, you know what I mean, or a quick chokehold. He had his knee on the brother's windpipe and circulation for at least 5 minutes. You could just see it. And people were saying to him, hey, to the police, and the guy had his hands in his pocket. He wasn't even, you could see that man was there for a reason. He wasn't there just, I'm accidentally killing this man. In fact, he didn't let him up until he knew he was dead. Somebody hired that man. Somebody paid him to do that on TV, where everybody could see it. They've studied the Negro. They've studied history. Do you know everything from the Watts Rebellion to Philadelphia, all of them was based on police brutality. During that period, when we were active, all of the riots, they call them, we call them rebellion, were based on police brutality. The police got one of the brothers and beat him upside the head. Even Rodney King in 1990, whatever it was, right? That was based on police brutality. And the police got off. You know, it was so ridiculous. They had the police right there on the stand and they say, did you hit Mr. King with your club? The police said, no. He said his head collided, like his head was going down the street and run into his club. And guess what? They said, okay, good. They let they let the person go. They let them all go. Right? It was so ridiculous. It's as ridiculous as this man has not been arrested along with his 3 cohorts so far. But the whole world up there is going to wherever it's going. And then, whether it was Ferguson, right, down in Missouri, wherever it was, the people know the behavior and the character of the Negro, and they're using it. We are being used right now. This stuff that's going on TV, 3 days ago, all the news was saying we're reaching 100,000 people, and Donald Trump haven't said nothing, not even a word of sympathy, right, for the people. That's all you saw 3 days ago on the news. Why? We just reaching 100,000? And he's not giving a national lecture and said they was calling him some name they had for a pastor in chief or a reverend in chief, or somebody that would console, a consoler in chief, to console the people. After all, it's 100,000 people dead. That's twice as many people died in Vietnam, almost 58,000, right? You combine Vietnam and Korea, it's about the same amount of people in that. The Korean War, the Vietnam War, right? We have that many people have already died in the last couple of months. Not over years and years. The Vietnam War back from 63, 64, well, say 65, up till they left in 75. Well, that was an 8-year period of 72, 73, they technically leave. And all the news was saying the consoler in chief is not there. Every president would come before the people and say, well, we're sorry so many people died, and the government is doing all of its can. We're using all of our energy and our focus and our institutions, and our work is devoted to getting a virus, to helping the families, and we grieve with you, that type of stuff. This man didn't do that. What did we get? That same night, they had on TV the police killing the brother on TV. Why? Maybe somebody know your behavior patterns. They have killed the brother on TV. Why? So that now when you turn on the TV, they don't have the numbers of the people dying. They have, Donald Trump said these people are thugs. What thugs they talking about? Yesterday, we saw on the news, right? All the news says, we don't want the black people up in Minneapolis. We don't want violence in this. Because they done already studied, they say you don't get nothing from violence. Plus it takes the picture away from the problem, which is the killing of the brother. And all they focus now is on a few buildings and cars burning. Right? There was nothing on the news this morning. I just watched it before I got here. There was no news about how many people dying of the virus. There's no news about China. There's no news about that. Donald Trump is a specialist at diverting people from what's going on. A shell game, right? If you want to trick somebody, you divert them from what's really happening, right? Get their mind on that. 3-card Molly, get their mind on something else. Split second, and he said, it's under that, P is under this one. He pulls it up, it's not there. Why? Because he diverted the people. They have become specialists in diverting our minds. Think about, was it Michael Brown laid out on the street down in Missouri for 4 hours? They didn't cover him up, they didn't do nothing, just laying out there. Right? Dead. It's okay, he's just dead. Why was he dead? Because the police said they were afraid of him. Well, if you're afraid of the person, leave him alone. Let him go. You don't need to kill him because you're afraid of him. What are you doing with a police uniform on if you're afraid of people? It's insanity. Well, I'm afraid of niggas, big niggas like that. I'm afraid of them. Well, why are you wearing a police uniform when you're going to be assigned to an area that's who you're going to be dealing with all the time? Right? So everything that they do, it don't make sense unless you focus on what's going on at this time. Now, let me go through something else right quick. Unless you go forth, he will punish you with a grievous penalty and put others in your place. But him you would not harm in the least. For Allah hath power over all things. Go forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, and strive and struggle with your goods and your persons in the cause of Allah. That is best for you if you but knew. Unless you go forth, Allah will exchange you with another people. Right now, we're going through the exchange of the Negro. The Negro have been exchanged, or he's at the last step of being exchanged. How is it happening? In the civil rights period, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and many other great personalities from our community. Our stature was tall in the world. People knew who he was. I was at the University of San Marcos in Lima, Peru in 1972, the oldest university in the Western Hemisphere. And I was talking a little bit, along with another guy, a little bit about some of the changes that was going on in the United States. Person came up speaking perfect English like he just lived down the street. He said, but are those changes in accord with the principles laid down by Malcolm X? Right? They knew about us. They got books about us all over the world. They study us. People listen to our music. I hope they don't listen to that stuff they got going on now, but they do. So now, if you look at Ferguson, what did they do? They said something down there. The people said, talking about those outsiders. Y'all remember that? People from the outside. They came in and they started all that burning and mischief. And so they moved from Michael Brown to all the burning and all the destruction. It's very simple. Up in Missouri, up in Minnesota, right now, the news today didn't hardly have no videos of the person being killed and murdered by the police. All of it was fires in the background burning, right? And they had governor after this person, that person. They had, as of then, I didn't hear of anything about the arrest and charging of the police. I think, okay. The people, yesterday on the news, the black people said we were having peaceful demonstration. Now, I don't know if they can see that stuff on there. Yeah, if you just show it. You can see, let's call him a white boy. He's on there, right on the news, doing like this, waving the people on to come and destroy and participate in destruction. Why? Why? They have several things that happen. For years in the past, every time there was some killing like that, they would send some handkerchief-headed Negro. In the 90s, 2000s, up to 2 weeks ago, they used to send old Reverend Al. He'd go down and preach a sermon and pontificate, and then he'd come on back home. That was old Reverend Al. He got fame for that. Then the people start saying, we don't want that here. In fact, Ferguson, they was having demonstration downtown in D.C. They had, first I wasn't going. I said, them Negroes, whatever their name was, I wasn't going down there to listen to them Negroes. Then they had it broadcast on WPFW, and I heard in the background, let them speak, let them speak, let them speak. Who was they talking about? The people from Ferguson. All these Negroes up here, Joe Madison and Sharpton them, they had hijacked, they stole the platform. And the people was shouting, let them speak. Let the people from Ferguson speak. We don't want to hear nothing from these handkerchief-headed Negroes. Of course, there was white folks all around the news talking about, well, Sharpton get money from this corporation, that corporation, the same old stuff. So when I heard them say, let them speak, I gaffled up the family and off to the demonstration we go, because I said, oh, this one took a turn. But I wasn't going down there to watch a hijacking of the platform. They want to change the dialogue. It's easy. Divert it to violence. After 2 or 3 days, people are only focusing on the violence, not the problem. It ain't no big deal if this was, can I read y'all something? It's called the Declaration of Independence. I just want to read a little bit of it. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands that have connected them with one another, and to assume amongst the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, and a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to this separation. So they got to let everybody know this is why we separate. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, the governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the rights of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect the safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate the governments established should be changed for the light transient causes. In other words, this is old Tom, George, and all these Europeans. This is the Declaration of Independence. I don't want to get into the difference from the Declaration of Independence from the Constitution. But in brief, the Declaration of Independence is a revolutionary document. The Constitution is a document of control. That's why the first group of white folks, they said, we're not accepting that thing y'all got. We done fought a revolution to be free. We're not accepting it unless, and they come up with their so-called Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution had to be in there before they even ratified the thing. Right? A Bill of Rights, hold it, you can't control us, because all of a sudden, just let me divert a minute. You got the Americans that done fought for freedom from Britain. And like I say, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's a duty, it's a responsibility of any time a government is not formed and organized in order to produce that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is a duty, it is a responsibility of those people to alter that government, to change that government, right? Yeah. Okay. That's the Declaration of Independence. Now, they hooked up the Articles of Confederation. They already had the Articles of Confederation, 1775. And they fought that whole war, Revolutionary War, under the Declaration of Independence and the Articles of Confederation. That's what they called them. But after they won the war, now all the big boys down there, you know, what's the name, was the governor of Virginia, George Washington, before. Those was big time boys. Oh, up in Pennsylvania, oh, what's the name up there, Benjamin Franklin? He was the first American millionaire in those days. You know how much money that was in them days? Right? All these people, they put their John Hancock on there. You think any of them was poor farmers and all of that? Do you know that the Constitution at first, even white folks couldn't vote if they didn't own property? Women couldn't vote, and you know the poor Negro, I mean, if he lived so across the street, he might be able to vote for a minute. But he wasn't going to make too much noise. But down in Dixie, he was 3/5 of a person. The white folks said, we're not going to accept that rag unless we have certain guarantees. That's where the Bill of Rights come from. They were guarantees to protect us from the government. Do you know the Second Amendment? The right to bear arms, what is it for? To protect yourself from your neighbor, from a school shooting? Absolutely not. To protect yourself from a government that gets out of line. Why? Because the right to bear arms is the reason that this colony here in America was the only one that liberated itself from Great Britain. Why? Everybody had guns. Minutemen, everybody had guns, and they knew that was the key to maintaining freedom. I don't want to stray from the subject, but when you see them blowing up all them children in schools and all that, that's the government doing it. I don't care whether you like it or not. That's the government doing it to make everybody mad, so they'll say, we got to take these guns from people. And all the white folks that know what that Second Amendment mean, all you got to do is breathe hard and they'll go buy every weapon, right, in the weapons store. The children will starve before they not have their gun. Look, I'm telling you, right there in Baltimore, it was years ago, FBI police, he was a uniformed FBI police. So he used to go to the mosque, he say, don't you want a gun or something? Let's go over to a gun show. It was in Baltimore. I said, okay, I'll go over. And of course it was white folks over there. I saw by the clothes they was wearing, poor white people. Not only the guns they was buying, but you know them push carts about this long, like they have at Home Depot. Them orange carts they have stacked up with bullets, and they was heavy. You know how heavy lead is. They was pushing them like with all of their might. And if you can count it all, you could say, I know that's $10,000 worth of bullets. You know why? And we say, white folks, you keep buying all the weapons you can. Now, me and you as home folks, so that's the way we got to look at it now. We got to let them white folks know it's not very upstairs, not that quick. We got to let them know, homeboy, I didn't send not one factory overseas. I have not organized nothing with China, nothing with Taiwan, nothing with anybody over there. So when you start shooting, I am your brother. Remember, I know you may not like it, but me and you in this together. So you got to keep them white folks off of you. Divide, conquer, and rule. They're not that smart. A lot of the dummies are supporting Trump right now. A lot of them not too bright white folks, they're supporting Donald Trump. And he don't know that they don't know Donald Trump and his homeboys the ones sent all the money away. They're the cause of them being poor, not the Negro. There's no Negro sent any factory overseas. You could read the deindustrialization of America in the mid-'80s, early 80s, that they had this plan. Americans made too much money. Out where I live in California, the Negroes that worked at GM and all them places was living in the hills. Out there, when you live in the hills, that means you're doing pretty good. They was making $20 an hour in 1980. 1980, they was making $20 an hour. Them unions had got them having so much money, they lived like big-time hustlers, players. Some of our people just working on the job. Then, you see them 3 years after that, they had broke them down to $5 an hour. How did that happen? Reagan busted up the unions. Y'all may not remember that and all that stuff. I'm telling you, they made their own people, their own workers unnecessary by demobilizing them factories and sending them overseas. Right? And so, you got to remember, they don't care nothing about race. Now, back to the Negro. The Negro is being, if they wanted the Negro to have freedom, he'd have got it a long time ago. I don't think it takes 170 years to stop police brutality and stuff like that. So, if we look at the world, we can see this divide, conquer, and rule, immigrant against native syndrome. How does it work? The last time I was in South Africa, course, I was driving around, and that was a marathon going on, and so we was being diverted. The police officer, which was a young black woman, was diverting traffic. The brother that was a Muslim, a foreigner, he said, she is a born free. What does that mean? She was born at the end of apartheid or at the beginning of this right to vote. She don't have no memory of apartheid, no memory of how cruel and brutal it was. Then you could see there's a whole group of those people now, up in their 20s and 30s, say from 1990 on, around that period. They're called born frees. First thing we told the people in South Africa, hey, the ANC, they're not going to build no 5 million homes and all of that. They said they ain't going to do that. And we was telling the Muslims what they're going to have to do in order to help rescue their country. That means that we can bring Islam from the south to the north instead of the north to the south. They didn't do that. Within a few years, the blacks was robbing all the Muslims, Indians, Asians. They was robbing everywhere. They was worse than the old Mau Mau's. They had, remember now, they armed, the people is armed because they was fighting the government, the apartheid government. They was fighting them. They was throwing them big cement blocks out in the road when you come by, and then they'd be waiting in the ditch, and they was robbing the Muslims mostly, because the other Africans didn't have no money, so they was robbing the Muslims. They missed their opportunity. They missed their opportunity. In the early days, the Indian Muslims, mostly in South Africa, were good people. They're the ones that helped liberate the country. The money, the lawyers, think about the names that you saw on the liberation struggle list. They had Muslim names. The lawyers were mostly Muslim lawyers, because see, under apartheid, the Indian Muslims, they had to stay in their own area, but they were lawyers, they was all of that stuff. Big businessmen, that's what they was. They spent money to help liberate the South Africans. But when apartheid come, they clung to the ANC. Now in a Muslim family, I'll get back to the point. In a Muslim family, you might have people that was part of the ANC, the majority, and then the PAC, Pan-African Congress. Y'all remember PAC? One settler, one bullet. One settler, one bullet. That means the revolutionaries, they say one settler, one bullet. That means they wanted to take out all the white people. ANC, but the ANC won out. Mandela did a good job. He said, in order to make this country whole, we have to go through a period of, they call it forgiveness. And that was right for South Africa. If he didn't do it like that, it would have been a bloodbath, a serious bloodbath. Because the white folks had the Army, the Air Force, and they had all the police departments. Black people had most of the population, but with all that firepower, good God Almighty. Right? Okay. The born frees, right now, they don't remember any of that. The Democratic Party of South Africa, which is white folks, have gained big power amongst the born frees. Why? Because the Negroes, now I told them what the Negro was going to do, not that I lived in Africa and saw it 1,000 times. Up until that point, no African government had gained power and really just fixed everything up and really got. They all stole the money, bought red Benzes and all that, yellow outfits. That's what the niggas do. They the same nigga over here, right? Pink Cadillacs and all that stuff. That's what we do, right? You think they was going to do any different? Nobody else had, because when you out in the bush, we all brothers. But when they pass out the power and I get in that chair, that's it for you, brother. You got to go. All the ANC that fought for freedom was out in the woods. It has happened before. When we was first in Africa, the Mau Maus, all heard of the Mau Maus, the Mau Maus in the 50s, and when they got freedom in 61 in Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, which was Kikuyu himself, you forgot about the brothers. When we got there, like in 71, if you wanted to find Kikuyu, the Mau Maus, they was highway robbers. Why? Because the government, we got power now. We don't need y'all. We ain't got enough to share all of this. We got enough money to share this right here and a few more dollars with my homeboys. We ain't got for all of y'all. That was a rule in Africa. It's still basically a rule, but they're making some progress. Here in the United States, first of all, in South Africa, when they have Somali immigrants and all the immigrants come in, you hear all about the riots. The Africans there from South Africa are against, the immigrant Africans. And the immigrant, the Nigerians sell drugs and stuff like that. They're not that friendly. But the Somalis are basically good people. But if the Somalis come in and they open a store, they burn it down, they do all of that. The old colonial trick, divide, conquer, and rule. That's happening to you and I right here. Divide, conquer, and rule. When you first heard about Islam in America, it was black people, right? Go back 30, 40 years on back. It was all black people. But then the immigrant population started swelling. They saved their money more than we did. They bought big centers, and now when they talk about Islam, they don't even go find no Negro. They go out and get Ridwan Jaka and all the Euro imams, and if they got a Negro imam like Jahari Abdul Malik that used to be over Dar al-Hijra, they there. You know why he was there? Because we used to have all the wonderful programs at Howard, and he became the imam over there at Howard, and he stopped them. He said, we don't want those type of programs here. Howard was wonderful. Neutral ground. We had all them big programs. All the Negroes, they have programs. I heard on Press TV about 2019, they had imams getting up there at ICNA and mass meetings saying we ought to study what CARE is saying about the overwhelming evidence of Islamophobia in America, and all the people who are spending billions of dollars to make the society hate the Muslims, all the Muslims. But they have groups of Muslims, immigrant Muslims, indigenous Muslims. The indigenous Muslims that used to be rebellious have been quieted down over the decades. The immigrant Muslims have been quiet since the day they got here. Why? Because please let us in your country. And then the immigrant Muslim, he came here for one thing, not to change America, but to be a part of America. You and I have never been treated right in America, and we want to change America. So now, they have to change, let's just talk about us. They have to change the system where the people who want to change America will be led by the people who want to be Americans. If you think I'm lying, go out there in Maryland and look at the signs of the people running for something. I saw a name, Muhammad Ali, right out there. Right out there now. Running for something. If you look in the movies, right now, who playing Martin Luther King? It's okay, but an African immigrant. Who's playing On the Wire, Flyer? Idris Elba. Nice guys. I like them all. Don't get me wrong. I like all those African. Michelle Ali, I like them. But they're immigrants. And the immigrant mentality will be just like our brothers that own the shell up there. All the people around begging for money and causing them trouble are Negroes from here. Everybody that go out to Gaithersburg and everywhere begging for money and causing trouble, who are Negroes, are sent by the government to cause trouble for them people, so they will want to stay away from us. If they worked harder, they could be like us. Look at our big mosque. Look at our big centers, right? If they, right, roll up their sleeve and did like us, they could get all they want. You know why? Somebody is encouraging the people. Okay, the movies, you already know who's behind the movies and everything. It's not accidental. 12 years a slave. Now they had brothers named, I see their names, Umar, them, they made some videos at that time, like 500 years or something like that. I don't know if y'all saw them. But it's good historical stuff. Why they didn't let them make the movie, 12 Years a Slave? They knew more about it. The guy that made it is an African immigrant. It's okay, right? Half of the programs you see now or more, they have African immigrants, right? The stormtrooper guy to get the white girl in, what's that, Star Wars. You see him on TV and he's telling you, yeah, well, for my accent, I had to practice this and that to talk American. On the football program, America, something other, the high school guy out there in L.A., I thought he was a Negro from here. Absolutely not. I saw him on TV the other day. He was talking about how he would have to change his accent to sound, I said, that's an L.A. accent. How did he do that? How Idris Elba, how everybody. Look, it's a replacement. What they would always do in colonial period, they would give the minority tribe power. Yeah, all the missionary schools, the education, they got the minority tribe. That's the first thing we learned in colonialism. That's why it's so much fitna in Africa, because 50 years ago, the educated class was all from the minority tribe. And the majority now is going to take power because we got this show going on, right? So that's why it would be mass slaughters and mass murders, because the minority tribe in colonialism was the educated crew. Missionary school, y'all remember them? After liberation come, the majority tribe were going to take power. So who's going to try to stop them? The minority tribe. Divide, conquer, and rule. In America, Dear brothers and sisters, you almost replaced. It's close to being replaced. By who? First of all, in Islam, you've already been replaced by the immigrant community. And the immigrant community want to be, at first we was all brothers and everything. Now they want to stay far away from you as they can. The immigrant community. They don't want you around. If you talk like me, you're not going to be around. Remember the years ago, all the big demonstrations? We was a star of the show, and not now. Why? Because they're begging to be a part of the system, no matter how bad the white man treat them, right? No matter how much Islamophobia, if we just can be a little better Muslim, we'll show them how good Islam is, and then they will know that we are like them. That's what they say. Right? That's what they say in everything. Now, what does that have to do with you and I? In Africa, South Africa, the ANC mess up so bad, right, that they are being replaced by white-supported, right, born frees. Right? Africans, immigrants that come here, they don't have slavery in their history. And if they keep their head down and just drive their cab, get their stores, right? When they get their stores, guess who's going to be outside messing up for them? Me and you. They're going to begin to look at us different. They the same color, same everything. They may be from Sudan. It don't make no difference. There's an arranged picture of who we are. We are in the third stages of being replaced on that level. How do we do it? Very simple. Give Negroes the pass. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, right? See the new Malcolm X thing? We know the guy, that's a long story. Other people here know him too. Give us the past. Right? Do you ever feel like they're trying to push us back 50 and 60 years ago? Of course they are. But give the future to African immigrants. And you think they're not going to start winning elections? Why are they going to start winning elections? Because somebody's going to help them out. And then pretty soon, we will be in argumentation with people who look exactly like us. They will be in charge of programs and governmental things that they will shift most of the money that they get to kind of their crew, and they will be technically against you. You say, well, they're going to be black, and they're going, yes, they are. They've always, if they want somebody to fight you, they'll go get somebody that look like you. Then you can't say it's racism, isn't that right? I'm telling you, there's a diabolical thing going on, and ain't nobody in the United States talking about it but us right here. Now to what's happened in the last few days. If you have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and if a government does not form and shape itself, or you form and shape it to lead to those goals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to safeguard your rights, then it is your duty, your responsibility to change that government. Every rebellion, they call them riots. So what's right in all of them? It's because of police brutality. Rodney King, everything, right? Remember? The stuff down in Ferguson, all of it. Police brutality, killing black people. We had no choice. Killing the poor little black guy over there in Sacramento. All the police got to do is yell, gun! And all the police start shooting, right? So if it's one bad police and that, all he got to do is holler, gun! And they start shooting. That's why the people have so many bullet holes in them. 40 bullet holes. It's unbelievable. Why can they still do that to us and we've been here longer than anybody except the American Indian? Why is it that so many black people are dying every day? They're talking about, they shouldn't be worrying about the coronavirus. Biggest number of people dying, African Americans in America. The next is American Indians on reservations. The next is Latinos. And the next is the workers who are like from Jamaica, not Jamaica, what are them islands? They from all them places. They dying even in America. And in England, 4 times. The people dying there 4 times. People from African descent, people from combination of Indo-African descent, like a lot of people over there, like a lot of Indians lived in the Caribbean. They assimilated with Africans, all down there. Guyana, all those places, they're dying like flies. You know what the Negro is saying? Them Negro leaders we have? They're not suspicious at all. Well, it shows how bad the health care is. And it's diabetes and it's this, that, and that. Have you seen in the metro them corpulent white people? Can't hardly walk. Have you? You know what they got? Diabetes and everything else. They ain't dying. Have you seen these girls? This is gigantic. It's not only the Negro. It's America. Fat. Let's call it corpulent so the people won't think we prejudice against fat people. Corpulent. Right? It produces illnesses. Diabetes and all that other stuff. Why they're not dying? They ain't dying. Well, the Negro is fat and have high blood pressure. They got you ever watch TV lately? All they got is stuff, it used to be about young folks, but now it's diapers for old folks, you know what I mean? Beautiful panty liner drawers, right? To catch the weak-bladdered people. Medicine, you take this medicine, you got a skin problem, it'll fix your skin problem. Might cause a little death here and there. That's what they say. It might cause heart attack. I said, shoot, I would rather have the skin little rash. Skin rash, that's all it is. It says skin rash. You take this medicine, it's going to help your skin rash. Might kill you. Might cause heart attack, diabetes, overweight, everything, right? You ever listen to that? I said, man, that's cold-blooded. But that's what they're doing, right? So when you look at the stuff, you see that it is not the Negro that is having only health problems. America has health problems, but the Negro is dying. Right? Do y'all remember 20 years ago? What was the biggest issue in D.C. outside of killing? Teen pregnancy. Y'all remember that? 25 years ago. Do you remember teen pregnancy? Babies having babies? How many babies you see out there now? Go on. Start counting the girls walking up and down the street with babies. Count the girls that are walking up and down the street with babies. Boy, ain't nothing happened. They just Fell off the pregnant wagon. They fell off the pregnant wagon. What? They're not having sex no more? They're not what? They're just not having no babies. We're under attack, dear friends. And we are in the third stage of replacement. If you don't go forth, Allah will replace you with another people. Right? We're being replaced. The Negro, the American Negro, has always been on the endangered list. Okay. All the Negroes you see on TV, Empire and all that, boy, they having big money, aren't they? And they have power. Is that true? It ain't true at all. If a Negro try to get some money, suppose he get a new industry, rap music and all of that. Pretty soon, the biggest boys in rap is dead. Biggie Small, Tupac, them. What happened to them? East Coast rappers, West Coast rappers, divide, conquer, and rule. All the time, every time, anywhere, everywhere, right? And I'm just shocked that I'm the only one here talking about this today. I'm talking about it today because 3 days ago, they wanted to know why Donald Trump was not given a speech as consoler-in-chief. They done reached the 100,000 mark, right, for deaths in America, and the people should be consoled. That was 3 days ago, 3 days ago. And all you see on TV now is the National Guard brought up to wherever it is up there in Minnesota. And that the people, I don't know if y'all saw that little video that they played. You saw the white boy. Come, burn everything down. You see what I mean? Why is that? Why did Ferguson tell the people, these people that's coming doing this are outsiders? Why? Because the United States government controls all of our movements, and if anything, you want to have a nonviolent movement, you have to have it outside of America. Why? Because they're going to come and start burning everything down. Right? And they're going to blame it on, they're not going to ask, did the police have their knee on the guy's neck? They're going to say it's civil disorder. Somebody paid that police, all them guys, to do what? One thing about old dumb Don, he can divert your attention. And they diverted America's attention from the coronavirus, from all the ignorance, right? Donald Trump messed up. He messed up bad. He told the people, y'all seen it on TV, this thing gonna blow over in a couple of weeks. 100-something thousand people did, right? That's what he said, though. That's what he said. He said people are getting so upset about it. China's fault. They did it. They did that. Da, 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 on and on and on. And a week or so ago, he jumped on the TV and told everybody, this bleach clean your outside here to clean your inside. And he told them, inject it too. He said, inject it, either drink it, but he said, inject it. Get you a shot of bleach, and you're going to turn white as snow inside. Yeah, before you die, if you get, right? He stopped having TV programs, right? Remember that? He stopped. They told him, boss man, you blowing it bad, man. You can't go before the people like that. So they diverted our attention. They divert our attention because we're not organized, we're not developed, I don't blame it on us, because all our leaders, if they're not talking about this in this way, something's wrong with them. You got to be stupid not to pick up on the patterns of behavior, right? Some patterns have to flow the other way. It can't always be in our way, right? Everything that happened bad, we get it first, all the time. And if they've been shooting Negroes and hanging them and burning them and then lynching them for 170 years, they don't need no more time. If you got a problem that long, either they ain't fixing it or they don't want to fix it. And then at the same time, they want to divert it and then they blame it on you. It's the Negro's fault. Yes, it is. And then remember the picture that the immigrant has. This is the land of opportunity. So they've given all the parts to immigrants. We're not against them. They are our brother. But do they know what's happening? Do they understand how diabolical boss man is? Do they understand? Or do they care? You got to remember, the people that's being manipulated, they may not know. Or a few people may come to them here and there. It's a national project and say, hey, why don't you run for chief of this county? Right? He says, sure, I'll run. I'm a lawyer. I'm a this, that, and other. I'll do it. Suppose that's a national policy. When they run against Johnny Boy or Bertha, they ain't going to have but the money they can hustle up. But the other people going to have a secret fund, right? When they wanted to get Obama the president, the first go around, he raised $600 million, a Negro. And the second time, $1 billion, a Negro. All Negroes can raise $100 billion, $100 million. Can't you? There's freedom of speech, press, and religion. You had a freedom to run for Congress, right? So if I give you 25,000 and my neighbor give you $25, who are you going to listen to? Huh? You had a freedom. In other words, dear believers, we're going to close with this because, and we apologize for not a haphazard subject, but it was an emergency subject. I just watched the news an hour or two ago. I said, I'm going to change what I was going to talk about. And I did. So I hope that it made a little sense. But systematic oppression, storm trooperism, Islamophobia, civil liberties destruction, constitutional dictatorships, the stuff that we've been talking about all for years. But we want you to begin to psychologically and physically defend yourself. And from a religious position, you should be prepared to listen to people that have your interests at heart. If you don't know by now that the United States government, the Zionist state of Israel, and Saudi Arabia is your enemy, and they're going to work in harmony with each other to destroy Islam, people of color, And they want you to be perpetual slaves. They're going to continue to bomb and destroy our countries, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. All those happen to be Muslims there, right? You have to rebuild. You ever see on TV what it looks like? Destroyed. Destroyed. Flatten out, rubble, bricks everywhere. Rubble, bricks everywhere, and we're the bad guys. The terrible Syrians, the terrible Iraqis, those mean old Afghanis, isn't that right? And in America, it's those unruly Negroes. Tell the truth. You got to tell the truth. Is that true? It's those unruly, uncultured Negroes. They're the problem. That means somebody is running something and getting by with it because we remain silent. So right here, what we want y'all to do, those of you that are listening, if you don't want to do nothing, you help us do it. It's got a number on there and they got all the addresses. Make sure you get us something to help us out. Because we're going out anyway. We're not going to sit here and just have boss man stick his foot in our behind, in our ears, urinate in our ears, do anything he wants. No. Everybody else can. They can take their job and be happy with them. We're not going to do that. We need your help. If you think what we said was true, then try to get with us the best way you can. If you don't want to do it, send us something. We'll take care of it. Don't worry. Oh Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from want of what is beside thee. Ameen. Iqamati salat.